Hey friends, welcome back to Embrace the Question. It's good to be with you. Thank you for watching this video. We're doing a Bible study. This is our Bible study with me. We're in Exodus chapter 10. And we're trying to do this weekly. It's good to get the word in us every week and ponder the things of God. Before we actually dive into this text, you'll notice, I don't have my glasses on. I'm tired of fighting the glare from those this week. I'm tired of a lot of things, apparently. Having a bad hair day, so you're getting the hat, the hoodie, the full works. It's fall here in Northwest Arkansas. It's cool outside. So let's level set real quick. If you've read my book, I mention 3 levels of understanding that we might possess when we are reading through Scripture. One is exegetical. That's kind of the base surface level. We read it, we understand what it's saying. It really doesn't go too much further than that. It's like, we're in Exodus. Moses turns the water to blood. It is what it is. Okay, we know the event happened. We move on. That's an exegetical understanding of the word right there. There's a second layer that's a little bit deeper, and that's when that layer means something to you, particularly you. It's like, wow, I remember one day when I was walking along the coast and there was a fungal bloom that turned the water completely red. It reminded me of blood. Maybe it was something you got pictures of. Maybe it was something that you could smell. It's something that you made a connection with. And in that connection, this passage of Moses turning the water to blood had special meaning for you. That's Rhema. That's the Rhema level of understanding. There's a third level that's possibly even deeper, known as the prophetic layer of understanding. And that is where you find that there is a divine connection for that story that's beyond even your own experience. It's revelatory in nature. It's like, wow, I've never seen that before. It just blows your mind because it completely shifts your theology. It's something that opens your spiritual eyes. It's a special connection. So those are the 3 layers. One is just surface layer. One means something only to you, and one is revelatory, like it opens your spiritual eyes. There's a basic pitfall that teachers fall into. One is we always try to be profound, meaning we always want to push this third level at you guys, this prophetic level, this revelatory understanding to you, even when there might not be that level of understanding available. We want to be profound. On the converse of that, as a Bible student, especially as a casual Bible student, the problem is that we read so fast that nothing is profound. We don't stop and pay attention. We read it so fast that our only experience with it is the surface level, the exegetical understanding. Tonight, as we read this, we're going to pay a little bit more attention to it. I think we're going to press into that Rhema level a bit because we're really going to think about what some of this might be like via some testimony that has been recorded from history. It's going to be kind of fun. So let's start Exodus chapter 10. I think what we're going to do is read, there are 2 plagues that are covered in this chapter. We're going to read the first one, talk about it, and then we're going to read the second one, and we'll talk about it. And then we'll summarize, okay? So Exodus chapter 10, verse 1. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Go into Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the heart of his servants, that I may show these signs of mine among them, and that you may tell in the hearing of your son and of your grandson how I have dealt harshly with the Egyptians, and what signs I have done among them, that you may know that I am the Lord. So Moses and Aaron went into Pharaoh and said to him, Thus says the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, how long will you refuse to humble yourself before me? Let my people go, that they may serve me. For if you refuse to let my people go, behold, tomorrow I will bring locusts into your country, and they shall cover the face of the land, so that no one can see the land, and they shall eat what is left to you after the hail, the last chapter, and they shall eat every tree of yours that grows in the field. And they shall fill your houses and the houses of all your servants and of all the Egyptians, as neither your fathers nor your grandfathers have seen, from the day they came on earth to this day. Then he turned and went out from Pharaoh. Then Pharaoh's servants said to him, How long shall this man be a snare to us? Let the men go, that they may serve the Lord their God. Do you not yet understand that Egypt is ruined? So Moses and Aaron were brought back to Pharaoh, and he said to them, Go, serve the Lord your God. But which ones are to go? Moses said, We will go with our young and our old. We will go with our sons and daughters and with our flocks and herds, for we must hold a feast to the Lord. But he said to them, The Lord be with you if ever I let you and your little ones go. Look, you have some evil purpose in mind. No, go the men among you and serve the Lord, for that is what you're asking. And they were driven out from Pharaoh's presence. Then the Lord said to Moses, Stretch out your hand over the land of Egypt for the locusts, so that they may come upon the land of Egypt and eat every plant in the land, all that the hail has left. So Moses stretched out his staff over the land of Egypt, and the Lord brought an east wind upon the land all that day and all that night. When it was morning, the east wind had brought the locusts. The locusts came up over all the land of Egypt and settled on the whole country of Egypt, such a dense swarm of locusts as had never been before, nor ever will be again. They covered the face of the whole land, so that the land was darkened, and they ate all the plants in the land, and all the fruit of the trees that the hail had left. Not a green thing remained, neither tree nor plant of the field, through all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh hastily called Moses and Aaron and said, I have sinned against the Lord your God and against you. Now therefore forgive my sin, please, only this once, and plead with the Lord your God only to remove this death from me. So he went out from Pharaoh and pleaded with the Lord. And the Lord turned the wind into a very strong west wind, which lifted the locusts and drove them into the Red Sea. Not a single locust was left in all the country of Egypt. We'll stop right there and we'll take up again on verse 20. So my first observation is this. I did a lookup on this word right here. Go into Pharaoh, I have hardened his heart. Now, many of you may be familiar with this word. It is the Hebrew word kabod, as in glory. You may remember later that someone in Scripture is named Ichabod, which means the glory has departed. Ichabod, not a good name. It's getting close to Halloween, and people tell the story of Ichabod Crane. It's basically a name of a cursed person. The glory, the weight, has departed. Now, what's interesting about that, I have hardened his heart, meaning I have put a weight on it. He's got a heavy heart. Not in the sense that we talk about being heavy-hearted. It has become proud. There's really not much left in Egypt after all these plagues have occurred. The devastation is still apparent. And we see that in verse 7, Pharaoh's servants have gotten to be a little bit bold here. They're saying to him, how long are you going to let this guy be a snare to us? Literally in the Hebrew, a noose. That we are walking into his trap every time. Do you not yet understand that Egypt is ruined, is destroyed. We're dealing with a proud heart, a hardened heart. We're dealing with someone who is intent on outlasting God and Moses, because Pharaoh is, in his own right, the son of God. That's who his claim is, actually a God himself. So that all of this stuff is happening around Pharaoh is an indictment against his power. He's basically being shown how impotent he is to all those who he is trying to rule. This is hurting Pharaoh, and he's getting more and more desperate. So let's talk about these locusts. A traveler in Syria says it's difficult to express the effect produced on us by the sight of a whole atmosphere filled on all sides and to a great height by an innumerable quantity of these insects, whose flight was slow and uniform, and whose noise resembled that of rain. The sky was darkened, and the light of the sun considerably weakened. In a moment, the terraces of the houses, the streets, and all the fields were covered by these insects. Another writer named Berhebraeus writes this: in AD 1004, a large swarm of locusts appeared in the land of Mosul and Baghdad, and it was very grievous in Shiraz. It left no herb nor even leaf on the trees. When their swarms appear, writes Volney, everything green vanishes instantaneously from the fields, as if a curtain were rolled up. The trees and the plants stand leafless, and nothing is seen but naked boughs and stalks. Another writer, Morir, says, They entered the inmost recesses of the houses, were found in every corner, stuck to our clothes, and infested our food. Burckhardt observes, they overwhelm the province of Najd, sometimes to such a degree that, having destroyed the harvest, they penetrate by thousands into the private dwellings and devour whatsoever they can find, even the leather of the water vessels. An older traveler, Beauplan, writes as follows: in June 1646 in Novgorod, it was prodigious to behold them, because they were hatched there that spring, and being as yet scarce able to fly, the ground was all covered, and the air so full of them that I could not eat in my chamber without a candle. All the houses being full of them, even the stables, barns, chambers, garrets, and cellars. I caused cannon powder and sulfur to be burnt to expel them, but all to no purpose, for when the door was opened, an infinite number came in, and the others went fluttering about, and it was a troublesome thing, when a man went abroad, to be hit on the face by those creatures, on the nose, eyes, or cheeks, so that there was no opening of one's mouth, but some would get in. Yet all this was nothing, for when we were to eat, they gave us no respite. When we went to cut a piece of meat, we cut a locust with it. And when a man opened his mouth to put in a morsel, he was sure to chew one of them. Imagine, these accounts were given after the plague, obviously. Never will there be as many after this plague as there were during this plague. So as bad as these accounts were, the plague was worse, trying to cut a piece of meat and cutting a locust in half in the process. No, thank you. Well, in verse 20, it says, but the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he did not let the people go. Interestingly enough, this is not the same word as kabod in verse 1. This one is shazak, and we can take a look at it. Shazak, seized, to make strong, to strengthen. He recovered. Pharaoh recovered his resolve. He hardened his heart. This idea of kabod, or glory, or weight being given to one's heart only makes you proud. And then we're back to the normal usage of the word, shizak. Okay, so let's keep going. Verse 21. Then the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, a darkness to be felt. So Moses stretched out his hand toward heaven, and there was pitch darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. Interesting. They did not see one another, nor did anyone rise from his place for 3 days, but all the people of Israel had light where they lived. Then Pharaoh called Moses and said, go serve the Lord. Your little ones also may go with you. Only let your flocks and your herds remain behind. But Moses said, you must also let us have sacrifices and burnt offerings, that we may sacrifice to the Lord our God. Our livestock also must go with us. Not a hoof shall be left behind, for we must take of them to serve the Lord our God, and we do not know with what we must serve the Lord until we arrive there. But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not let them go. Then Pharaoh said to them, or to him, get away from me. Take care never to see my face again, for on the day you see my face, you shall die. Moses said, as you say, I will not see your face again. We've basically given each other ultimatums. We can't see each other again after this one, though we will see a darkness that can be felt. Now, I did a lot of reading on this, and I have my own ideas, and I will give you those. Because a lot of people think, well, perhaps this was a sandstorm. My response to that was, sandstorms would not be uncommon, even to the Egyptians, not even bad ones. Sandstorms can be the kind of thing where you have to stay indoors. You have to get some shelter because sand will get in your lungs, right? Sandstorms are bad deals. This is more than a sandstorm. Even though a sandstorm could have been involved, what we are talking about here is supernatural. And I believe a darkness to be felt, which is, literally you can feel, or a darkness that makes you grope, a tangible darkness, which is why people went the sandstorm route. You can feel the sand, right? The clue we get is in verse 23. They did not see one another, nor did anyone rise from his place for 3 days. But all the people of Israel had light where they lived. Okay. I really believe the light that they emitted in their own homes didn't do much good at all. They stayed put. The commentators argue that this didn't mean that it didn't mean that there was absolutely zero light. It meant that there just wasn't enough light outside, and they couldn't take their candles, their torches outside. They had to stay inside. Maybe, except for the fact that it says the Israelites had light in their dwellings. The Israelites had light in their dwellings, or where they lived. It sounds like a supernatural darkness. Something that would be very scary. Something that you wouldn't be able to get relief from. After all the other plagues, how bad would this one really be if all it was something that kept you inside for 3 days? You could still operate as normal inside by candlelight, by torch. I don't know that one would be so bad, right? Doesn't sound so bad. We've all been through ice storms where we've lost power for multiple days. How bad was that? It was a little cool. Not a problem they would have had. So I think we're dealing with a darkness that literally was supernatural, was so. And why would God do that? Because they're operating in darkness. They're lying, promote oppression, and slavery and basically evil in Egypt. So you tend to get what you pay for. You tend to reap what you sow, to be cliche. He's reaping what he has sown, darkness. And yet nobody in Goshen has this problem. The plagues are an example, I think, of what can happen if you sow a type of seed. You will reap the kind of seed that you sow. But two, you're protected if you are in God. You're protected in Christ. You are protected if you place yourself in Him. It's always light there. There's never plagues there. It's always a place of shelter. Well, I do think that it's really easy to read these accounts and think, maybe this was just a Bible story, another Bible story. Maybe this is just another opportunity for a flannel board Sunday school lesson. And we really don't give much mental energy into placing ourselves into these situations where you could have felt the plagues, where you could have witnessed how terrifying it would have been, even had you lived in Goshen, to actually view the devastation of these plagues, one after the other. It's like even the hard-hearted officials of Pharaoh are telling him to his face a very dangerous thing to do. Don't you realize that Egypt is destroyed? How long are you going to continue to let these guys bait you into a trap that you haven't gotten out of yet? I suppose they felt like they didn't have anything to lose at that point. Pharaoh has them killed. Maybe they've lost everything at that point. Horrible things, these plagues. And it's not over. We'll talk about the last of them next week. All right. I hope you all are doing well. If you need prayer, please don't hesitate to let me know, either in the comment section or over on the blog. You can contact me, email me. We also have a Facebook page. You can message me. Embrace the question. All right. So till next week, I bid you all blessings, peace.